By occupation, I'm actually a registered nurse in mental health. But my current role is I work in safeguarding, so safeguarding vulnerable adults, children, etc.
Tell me about your experience before working with myself.
Prior to working with yourself, I had worked with other personal trainers, and I had got quite a bit of benefit out of it. At the time when I started working with yourself, I was going through quite a few things in personal life outside of work. I was in the gym and training, but I didn't feel I was getting the best out of my training. It needed some focus and direction. So I was starting to look for another personal trainer. And I'd actually, because obviously it was in the same gym as where you were working at the time, I actually watched you in a non-stalker way. And how you were with the other clients, some of the training techniques and things that you used, and they were quite different to what I'd utilized, what I'd done with other personal trainers in the past. And that's why I decided to approach you, because I liked the way you were working with people, the way you spoke, and the different techniques and things that you used.
Do you believe, and I'm trying to remember our conversation in the actual, we'll call it cafeteria, in terms of like that area in DW. Did you like the fact that we went through step by step? I'm quite nervous at the time, and I'll be open with people with that. You were one of the probably very first few clients I ever had. So very, 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 I'm probably in a similar position of anxiety as, oh, are they going to like what I have to offer, blah, blah, blah. Did you like that I obviously did it more specifically with you in mind, as opposed to I want to train you based on the parameters you've said before of X, Y, Z?
Yeah, I have to say, when we sat and met and discussed in the cafeteria around what I wanted to gain out of the session, you were very clear around tailoring the program to my needs. One of the things I've always struggled with is managing weight, and is trying to sort of stay toned and trim, and that was what I wanted to get a lot out of within the sessions. I and the program you put in place was very good on that. You talked about your previous experience, both bit of training and your previous sports background. And I have to say, you really sold it to me well. I felt you listened. You took on board what I wanted to gain from it. We were very clear on what we were going to achieve. We set the goals, we set the targets, we put in the session where we did the initial baseline, and then we did the sessions tailored, separated throughout at intervals, so we could monitor progress. And I was very pleased with it all.
Do you think you gained, you might not remember this though, Mike, do you think you gained additionally from the classes that I ran on behalf of
I did, to be honest. The ones I really enjoyed were the HIT sessions. I had never, ever done anything like that before in my life. I've always been a bit funny with big classes and groups. I'm not particularly a social person.
Well, that one's quite awkward, isn't it, for most people? Because it was, so I'll give some people, I don't know if they still do this, possibly not, but that class was on the gym floor. So that's probably very intimidating for me, let alone people taking part in it. And I'm the instructor. So I obviously commend, gosh, maybe the hundreds of people that took that class, because it takes a lot of ball to show up and do that and persevere and not really, I won't say not care, but as in they're going to do that 30-minute session for what they're going to get out of it. Do you think that was an extra benefit on top of the personal training that you were able to get? If not, one, I'm trying to remember the schedule off the top of my head. I think it was like what, two a night, and then I know you couldn't do the ones in the daytime. So do you think when you were able to maybe get an extra 1 session or 2 sessions on top of the personal training, do you think it accelerated you towards your goals a little bit quicker?
Oh yeah, definitely. I have to be, with it being on the shop floor was a new experience in terms of where the class has been held. But actually, when you actually got into it and the class was ongoing, you were so focused on what you were doing, it didn't matter who else was in the room, to be honest. It was a good class. It pushed you hard. And what I liked about it was, obviously, because I was working full time and going to the gym 4 or 5 times a week was, it was big in my life. But there were some nights you want to go, you want to have your session, you want to come away. And what I found with those HIIT sessions was, it was a good, solid, all over body workout. But I wasn't there for like 2 or 3 hours. I was able to get in, get my work done, enjoy it, and come away.
For you specifically, I don't know if you remember this. You remember the session where you didn't feel that you'd hit the mark? Do you remember that session?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I kind of put it into perspective of, oh, what about your sleep? What about your day, your work? Did you eat well? Did that help you to kind of go, I wasn't going to give you tough love. I was going to give you a little bit of sympathy and a little bit of empathy as, hey, I know you want to smash this PT session every single week, but there's going to come times where it's going to be some sort of adversity or setback. It's going to happen because obviously we're human beings, and it's only natural to hit a plateau or hit a little bit of a little bit, how would I describe it? Fork in the road.
You're not going to smash it every session, are you? And I think that's the you go in there and you want to push yourself and you want to push yourself. And one of the things I am is quite competitive when I'm in the gym. If someone's lifting 50 kilograms next to me, I'll lift 60. And I do find I get into that trap, and it's not a healthy really way to be. It should really be about focusing on what I need to get, or what I want to get out of the session and what I need to get out. What I found with your sessions was you did push, and that's what I was paying you for, to push, to guide and support. And that support sometimes was just saying, well, hang on, okay, let's look at the bigger picture. It wasn't just focused on that 1 hour session where we were together in the gym. You was like, well, okay, this is just 1 hour out the day. The whole day has been, what have you done? Have you worked? Have you eaten? Have you drank? Have you slept? What's been going on for you? And it does put into that context is what you need sometimes. And I have had that with other trainers where you don't get that. You just get that tough push, 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 push. And it's not always, as you say, I don't think it's always healthy either. Because I don't think it's just about working your body. You've got to work your mind as well.
That approach might work for some people, but it's not going to work for everybody. And you can't be pedal to the metal all the time without doing some sort of lasting damage in other areas of your life. Be it if you're going to the gym 7 days a week, what's that doing to your marriage, or be it with your girlfriend or boyfriend? Because they might be resenting the gym. It's like, well, you're spending more time with that materialistic thing than you are with me, which would obviously not going to help the relationship. So I think, obviously,
to be honest, by the time I was working with you, my marriage had gone down the pan anyway. So that was part and parcel of why I was back in the gym sorting my head out. And it was again to help me get that focus. As I said, I was wanting to get goals and things and hit targets, but my training just wasn't going anywhere at that time. Yeah, I was going to the gym, I was working out, I was doing the odd class here and there, but it just didn't have a proper focus or direction. And that's what you gave.
How did you think you benefited in terms of both health wise and emotionally while working with me?
Emotionally, it was good. Obviously, the exercise and it released endorphins and the impact on your mood and stuff. So there was that element. It was something good to focus on. Where I wasn't feeling particularly positive around myself in lots of aspects of life at that time. The the training made me feel good about myself. You know, I was hitting targets, I was pushing myself. The gains were notable. I mean, my leg press was just ridiculous. To be honest, the gains I was making each week, able to push myself, and yeah. So I did feel better. You know, there was that buzz that I'd managed to beat what I'd lifted or done the week before or the session before, and seeing those gains. And it was just good to feel positive about myself again. I'm a bit of a funny one. I don't weigh myself because my mindset is I can become very critical of myself and my weight, because it's been a battle. You know, I have sort of fluctuated by quite a few stone at times with my weight. So I don't stand on the scales because it becomes too much of a focus and an unhealthy focus. So I very much go on sort of how I feel, how my clothes feel on me and stuff. So I measure it sort of quite subjectively to myself, really. I'm not really what other people think in terms of you know, what they would see as a big gain. Well, that's their thing. I'm in it for what I want to get out of it. And for me, there were the you know, the increases and that were there, and they were quite marked. I felt, you know, yes, okay. There was one of the you know, the sessions where we sort of measuring how I'd come along. We've already sort of discussed it. It wasn't a great session, but again, you say you put that into context. You know, I was giving myself a hard time because I didn't feel I sort of was demonstrating the gains, but yeah, there's a whole host of things there, you know, that you've got to take into account, as you say.
You, in fairness to you and anybody that's watching it, you showed up, you're there, you give your best
yeah,
that given day, and from a mental health perspective, that's as all you can give. If that happens to be worst case scenario 50%, that's 100% on the day. So I think people get hung up on the fact of, you know, the what is perfect, this perfection, whereas what you did is you turned up, you respected my time. See, I respected to get you a result. Okay, it's neither of us wanted that to happen. Setback. I think that's probably the only time that I can recall that ever happening.
Yeah, to be honest, we looked at it, we dealt with it, we drew a line under it, we moved forward, and that, you know, that's all you can do. I've been with the personal trainer in the past. I was on the rowing machine, and we were doing a test, and it was pushing, and I actually got to the point where I pushed so hard, I almost blacked out. It sounds silly, my vision went. I was still rowing, from what I can remember, but I had to stop because I was going to pass out on the floor. I'd gone that far. Well, that's not healthy. That's not a healthy way to work with somebody. You know, as you said before about the other gentleman, that's pushing someone to the point where you're going to do damage. And there was no need for that. You know, where the other that trainer was like, "Oh, you know, well, you should have done that, you should have that, you should have done the other." Your approach was much more supportive. It was okay. So you're not happy with that. But what else has gone on today? Look at the bigger picture, and you don't always get that with other
Well,
trainers.
I think my background, like you said before, it's helped massively because I had no choice. It was either that way or the highway. So I think when I came into the industry, I was like, well, I'll coach people if they want to be coached like that, but I'll treat each person as an individual. And if you want to know why we're doing something, I'll give you a valid reason. We're doing this, X, Y, Z for this purpose. And remember, this is the result that you wanted. This is some of the work that you're going to have to do, some of the sacrifice and some of the pain that I'm going to get satisfaction out of. I'm not going to dispute that. Obviously, every training is like that. But this is what you signed up for. Whereas I think that no pain, no gain blanket approach to give that to everybody, not everybody's going to respond very well to that. If you're blacking out, You didn't sign up for that. That wasn't in the terms and conditions of. I didn't pay to black out every session. It's not that. It wasn't even in the fine print. So I don't even think I pushed you that hard. I pushed you hard.
You
I pushed you hard, but I don't think
pushed
you.
hard, but you didn't push me to the point where I was going to make myself ill. And you didn't, you did push me hard, but with others, I've been pushed so hard that then I've not been able to train for a day or two after because I've been absolutely rubbed out. And I never had that with you. Yes, I was pushed hard. Yeah, my body was feeling it. When I came back into the gym the following day, I could tell, I'd had a workout and I'd been pushed, but it wasn't to the point where I wasn't able to do anything for a few days. I was still able to follow my program. I was still able to engage and train, and that's what I wanted.
Oh, you don't want to be. Well, you remembered, but you don't know if you're still there. But most people hated training because they had to walk back down the stairs to get out of the building.
Yeah. And a few times I did have wobbly legs going down the stairs, but I did manage to walk down the stairs each time. But as I say, it was about pushing me, getting my goals, and I feel we did that. And I learned new techniques. You did new training stuff with me that I'd never done before. Those the squats and lunges are still part of what I use with my training now because my training's sort of changed and my goals have changed quite a bit since we were working together. But there's still elements of what we did together is still very much part of my routine and stuff that I do.
Do you think that because I've given you the foundations of training you don't hate, is that why you've probably kept it versus maybe the trainer of making you black out? Don't particularly want to do that ever again. And it's almost like a negative perception towards training, which I think a lot of people have got of, well, I've had a bad experience of this, so I'm going to put a blanket canvas over the lot and say they're all bad. Do you think because I gave you a positive impression of training and like you said, give you a different outlook and a different perspective and perception on training, that you could either cherry pick what you liked and you didn't? I didn't mind it with James, but I don't quite like that. I'm going to get rid of that. Do you think because I gave you a little bit of...
There was a lot of the stuff that we did was quite what I would call functional. Sometimes when I was doing, as I said before, I get quite competitive with the weights and I was pushing and pushing. I just got in my head for some reason about doing a 500 kilogram leg press, which is all right if you're going to go down the road flipping minis, but what functional use is that? A lot of the other training stuff that we did, there was a lot of the lunges, the dips, and the various things. They are quite functional in sort of your day to day and helping you with your movement, your core strength, and they're the bits I've taken, and kept as part of my training. I don't train in a gym anymore. I haven't trained in the gym for a number of years. My training sort of moved. I like being outdoors. I do running more than anything. Because of sort of personal things going on in my life over the last couple of years, supporting my partner through illness, I haven't been able to do as much as I wanted to. But when I am out there and I am doing I call it like strength training session stuff, kettlebells, it's a much more functional approach to the training rather than, lifting the heavy weights and pushing myself that way. It's, giving me that core strength and strengthening those key muscles to be able to do what I want to do while I'm out running the trails.
What would you say to people that were in your position at the beginning? What would you say to them in terms of they're a little bit wary, a bit cautious, maybe sat on the fence when it comes to working with me specifically?
I'd say go for it, to be honest. James, one of the big things that you did is you listened. You listened, you supported, you guided, you advised. Yes, you pushed. You did push in the sessions and they were, tough, but in a positive way. And as you said, it wasn't just focused on that 1 hour. You took a wider approach, a much more holistic approach to the person than you do get with other trainers. I've seen the stuff that you do. You've around the working with people who were amputees, or and working with people like myself who don't fit into that category. You look at the person as a whole, you see what they want to get out of it, you can offer the advice around that, nutrition support, you bring in your own experience, which is really positive, because your experience is really something quite phenomenal in the stuff you've done and achieved, where a majority of other trainers haven't got that. They haven't got that level of professional sportsmanship. And you've brought in, as you said, what you've learned over the years, and tailored it, to go ahead and train, support people like myself who would never be in a position like you were in, but want to push ourselves and develop and achieve goals.
Appreciate that, Mike. That's
No,
all.
no,
That's well, it's nice to hear some of this for me personally, because it's like, even though it's been like 6-7 years, I've kept, I think you and 2 other clients I kept in touch with, even so it's nice that I made such an impact in my early career,